Hey, how you doing today? I am Taquila Coleman. In today's video, we're going to talk about you are qualified. I want you to know that God is qualifying you, okay? There's a quote that says God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And this is exactly what God is doing with you during this God ordained stance, okay? God is qualifying you. The way how God qualifies us is by number one, helping us to understand the gifts that are on the inside of us. God teaches us our gifts, right? He reveals the gifts that he placed on the inside of us to us, and then he helps us to understand these gifts, and then he also teaches us how to use our gifts, right? And another way how God qualifies, those he called is with our testimony, right? And so you need to understand this because some of you are holding yourself back. Some of you, you're not stepping into purpose because you don't feel qualified. You don't feel good enough. You're second guessing, if you are ready or not. But I'm here today to tell you that you are ready. You are qualified. It's time to step into the calling that is on your life. Okay. Now, I want you to head over to First Corinthians chapter 2, and we're going to read verses. Well, I'm gonna just skim through it, but you can read verses 1 through 5. Okay, First Corinthians chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. And Paul is speaking, and he's telling the people, he was basically telling them that he did not come with eloquence or superior wisdom, right? But he came with his testimony about God. Right, he goes on to say that he came with weakness and fear and much trembling. Okay, and Paul, began to, go on to say how, his message and preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on man's wisdom, but on God's power. So I want to just highlight how Paul began to explain, to the people, listen, I'm not coming with eloquence or all of this superior wisdom. I'm coming in my weakness. I'm coming in fear. I'm coming, trembling, right? Because that's how it feels when God calls you. You don't really know, if you can do it or not, but you stepping out by faith, you're gonna come up against, some fears or whatever, but we walk by faith, not by sight. And he's telling them, like, listen, my message in preaching, it wasn't not with wise and persuasive word, it was with the demonstration of the Spirit's power. And this is what God is after. When we talk about God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call. God's not looking for you to speak all, just well with all of these, eloquent words. And, he's not looking for that. Okay. He's not. He's looking for you to demonstrate God's power in this world. Okay. This is why this God ordained stance feels so hard. It's like a boot camp, right? Because God is birthing your own testimony. He's giving you your own testimony that you're going to take to the people that God has assigned to you to speak to and change and bring them back, in right standing with the Lord. But he's giving you your own testimony where you can begin to testify of the goodness of the Lord. You could begin to share how God changed your life, how God took you from being this way to now you are this way serving the Lord, right? This is what the people are after, right? And I began to read over in the book of Exodus chapter 4, Moses, he's now it's time for Moses to be called, right? But Moses is so stuck on, how he speak, and I used to be guilty of that. He's stuck on how he used to speak. And what if they don't believe me? What if they don't listen to me, Lord? Right? This is what he's saying in Exodus 4. And so God said to him, um, what is it that's in your hand? Right, after Moses go through all of this, he's like, let me go back. Moses asking the Lord a question. He said, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say the Lord did not appear to you? God's response to Moses was, what is in your hand? Okay, he's like, what is in your hand? He was like, we can shut all this down just by you looking at what is in your hand. And this is what God is saying to you today. Okay. If you know that God is calling you and he's waiting on you to step into your purpose and calling, stop looking at or stop even coming up with all of these things that you think the people are going to say to you. Because God is, his response to you is, what's in your hand? What are the gifts that I placed on the inside of you? Look at that. Don't look at or don't even talk yourself into thinking, well, what if they won't believe me? What if they, going to think this? I remember when God called me to the God ordained marriage community, right? The first thing I said to God, how am I going to teach, your God ordained spouses, about marriage when I'm not married? That was the first thing I said to God. And you know what God said back to me? He said, you're qualified. He said, you have everything you need to do this assignment. So I had to go ahead and I had to lean on God. Okay. I had to take God's word, what he said and confirm, within myself and go ahead and walk by faith. Okay. Believing that if God said I'm qualified, I'm qualified. If he said I have everything I need to fulfill this calling, then I got it. End of story. I don't have to, overthink this process. Right. And so as you go on to read, because I want to highlight a few things. Okay. Let's go to Exodus chapter 4. Um, And let's start at verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, O Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. So you see how Moses is more focused on his flaws, his perceived flaws, right? He's more focused on, his speaking, okay? And we do this all the time. Verse 11 say, the Lord said to him, who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. This is what God is saying to you today. He's telling you, listen, who make your mouth? I make your mouth. I'll put my words in your mouth. Now go and I will teach you what to say, right? It goes on to say, um, verse 13, but Moses said, oh Lord, please send someone else to do it. Verse 14, some of you need to know this right here, because when God is steady prompting you to go forward and do this, he's encouraging you, he's telling you you have what it takes, right? And you continue to stay focused on your perceived flaws, you can move God to anger. Verse 14 say, then the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, what about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and his heart will be glad when he sees you. Now, let's slow down. You see how God told Moses, I know Aaron can speak well, but God didn't choose Aaron. Why is that? He didn't choose him because God's not after the person who can speak well. No, he's not after that. Okay, let's continue to read. Verse 15. It said, you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. It's not about speaking well. Like, yes, I'm not saying not to speak well. That's not what I'm saying. But God's not after, the outside appearance, right? He's not after how well you speak. Okay. No, he's after your testimony. He's after you winning souls to Christ. Okay. He said, I know Aaron can speak well. And then he goes on to say, I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do, right? Verse 16, he will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth and as if you were God to him. Now, here's the key right here, verse 17. But take this staff in your hand so you can perform miraculous signs with it. What is your staff? What is the staff God has equipped you with that God is now telling you, take this staff in your hand and use it where I'm sending you? Maybe your staff is the gift of dream interpretation. Maybe your staff is, how to prophesy. Maybe your staff is word of knowledge, or wisdom. Maybe your staff is you have the gift of discerning of spirits. You are qualified. I need you all to get this. You are qualified. It's not about how well you speak. It's about what are you speaking? Okay, that's number one, right? It's about you speaking what God says to speak. It's about you going where God tells you to go. That's where the impact is at. Okay? So, um, I wanted to, get on here and just let you know that you are qualified. Okay, your testimony qualifies you, your background qualifies you, your experiences qualifies you, your gift that God has placed on the inside of you is the very thing that is qualifying you. Okay, it's time to get out there. It's time to step in purpose. All right, you have what it takes. God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the call. I am Taquila Coleman. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.